Thomas Craven here, Thomas Craven Wood Finishers. I've been asked by Greg Saunders to do a little video description and a little demonstration of how we mix the Pinnacle brand unpromoted clear sanding sealer with the cobalt hardener and then the application to these truck bed boards. These are solid oak truck bed boards that we have a contract and job in the shop now to grain fill these boards and polish them to high gloss. And we're going to use the Pinnacle brand sanding sealer polyester resin to fill that grain and give us that fully finished, fully filled, grain filled, high polished effect on these truck bed boards that go in the bed of a truck, a show truck. It's an application now. So what we have here is the sanding sealer, and we're gonna open this up. And we're going to mix it. Make sure it's up in suspension. It is a sanding sealer, so it has a silicate in it to help with the sanding. So you want to make sure it's mixed up a little bit. It's a pretty thick material. So for these truck bed boards, we're going to mix up a quart. So we're going to pour 1 quart in here, hopefully with as little mess as possible. 28, 29 ounces, that's roughly about 32. Okay, I'm going to push that back, and we're going to put this in our mixing container right here. Okay, so now we're going to do the cobalt. We're going to add the cobalt. We add the cobalt to the resin, to the polyester resin. Because if you don't, this stuff never dries. So the cobalt promotes the drying of the material. And the formula for the cobalt is 3/4 of an ounce per quart or 3 ounces per gallon, or 0.023 times the quantity of resin you want to mix up. It's important to always add that cobalt promoter and mix well into the resin prior to adding the hardener, because it negates the effect of the promoter of the cobalt if you add the hardener in and the cobalt at the same time. So our formula for 1 quart is about 3/4 of an ounce of promoter, and we've got this little measuring cup right here that is a graduated 1 ounce cup, and we're going to do 3/4 of an ounce of the cobalt. You have to be fairly accurate with this mixing. It helps in making the mix consistent and the product that you're going to shoot consistent. So there's our cobalt. And that's a very interesting reaction. If you want to get a look at this cobalt is like dark blue, and it goes into that clear polyester resin, and it actually does change the color quite a bit to a good degree. So you mix this up in here very well. And so this would be a concern if you were going to put this clear over a pastel finish, a whitewash, or a bleached finish. We typically use this product over wood tones, oaks and mahoganies and walnuts that we want to fill. So this little bit of color change in the polyester we're not too concerned with. It kind of adds a maroon color to it a little bit and darkens the wood a little bit. It's not too much of a concern. So here we are. We're finishing up mixing the cobalt into the resin, and we're ready to put the hardener in. So this is 1 quart of resin, and we always want to make sure that we're mixing the hardener for the resin, not for the resin plus the cobalt. So we're going to, for 1 quart of resin, we're going to put a little more than a 1/2 ounce for a quart of resin. So that's what we got right here. We got our little mixing cup, and we're going to do a little more than a 1/2 ounce of this hardener, the MEKP. That's a little more than a 1/2 ounce now. And now we're ready to mix this in. Now we're going to mix this well, and then we're going to put this into the gun, and we're going to show the initial applications here for you. Okay, so here we are applying the polyester resin. These are going to be the fog coats or tack coats on this raw wood. So the initial coats, you never want to put a heavy solid body finish like this kind of material on too much too quick. So we're going to apply 3 light fog or tack coats, dry coats to this material. We're going to let it set up like a minute to 3 minutes in between each coat. Then we're going to start applying wet coats to build it up to fill. So Spray Girl Thelma is going to start that application now with fog coat on these trucks. Here we are after Thelma has now applied 2 dry coats to the surface of these boards. You can see in the reflection, it's still a dry coat, even though this is the second coat. She has not put so much on that it has started to flow. This is still a dry coat, and that's how you want your material to look like before you start applying your wet coats. This will provide you your maximum filling, ability to fill, and maximum adhesion to the surface. So here we are now. Greg wanted to see a little demonstration of something that has been polished and something that we've been working on recently as a console, a custom console for Galpin Auto Sports. So this is a custom console that they adhered some bird's eye maple to, and we have now applied a gray stain with silver powder applied to it, and we applied a whole bunch of polyester resin to it. So we've done 2 different applications of polyester resin, building it up to probably 15, maybe 16 millimeters thick. 2 different times sanding after the first big application. So my lead polisher, master finisher, Noel Flores, is going to now describe the polishing process that he's done to get to this wet, rugged, polished surface here. So Noel, so you built it up over 2 different days, the polyester resin. Approximately 8 to 12 coats each time, and you sand it in between coats. And what was the first grit sandpaper that you started sanding this with?
I started with the 400 grit.
400 grit sandpaper, and then did you go straight to the next application of polyester after that? Or did you sand it further with 800, 1200?
Well, after the second polyester coating, I went from 400 to 600. And moved my way up basically to 2000.
That was with the first application?
Second coat.
That's what I'm at. I wanted to ask you. Yeah, because we knew we were going to do at least 2 big applications of polyester. So the first sanding after the first big application of polyester, we sanded with 400 grit.
Actually, that was 320.
That was actually 320. Okay, so 1 time. So we sanded the first application with 320 1 time to break it down, flatten it down, and then now that was ready for another application of polyester resin to further fill this bird's eye maple. So then that second application went on so that this material totals 12 to 16 millimeters thick now. And so then the second application, after the second application, Noel has sanded it with 400 grit sandpaper. And then what was the next?
600.
600.
800.
800.
1,000.
1,000. 1,200. 1,500. To 2,000. 2,000 with your final sanding. And all of that successive sanding is necessary to remove your sanding scratches that you put in with the previous sandpaper. So in other words, you can't start sanding with 2,000 grit if you've been sanding with 800. So the initial sanding is with 400, move to 600, 800, 1,200, and up to 2,000. You do that in succession so that you repeatedly remove your sanding scratches as you go. And then it was polished both by hand and with our little speed tool here. The Advantage Tools mini sander buffer. This is a fantastic little tool here that Noel used. And he used the 3M rubbing compound to do the initial cut, to then remove the sanding scratches that he had put into it, sanding by hand with the 2,000 grit. And then after that, he moved on to the CSI product, the ceramic polish for the final polish. And that is now how he has achieved we've achieved this real full high polished wet look, shiny finish on this console.